Now this metaphors and movement stuff has been kind of interesting. Some of the results I've been getting from the workshops and from the client sessions, I'll explain in a second. Okay, driver, let's go. So hang on, let me just get settled, and I'm going to tell you a few things that have been happening. I'm going to put that down there somewhere. Now, something weird happened to me about 5 years ago. Actually, there were two weird things that happened. One was I met Charles Faulkner. That's not that weird, but it started something inside my head. Listening to his work with metaphors, I started to look at things quite differently and started on a bit of a journey myself at metaphoric movement. Now, what happened was I surveyed all of my previous clients, or at least all the ones that were still talking to me. You see, I used to be a really good hypnotherapist, and I could do all the Ericksonian hypnotherapy. I was really good at it. I could double bind people, I could do slow inductions, fast inductions, indirect inductions, indirect suggestion. I could do the whole lot. The problem was, whilst I was really good, at the end of the session, clients would report how they felt and what things were like for them. But the reality was, all I was doing was measuring kinesthetic change. The person has come to see me, they've had a nice cup of tea, they've had a 20-minute trance, they've talked about their problems, they've had some attention from me, and yeah, they felt good. But the question was, had they actually changed? So I surveyed them, and I've got to tell you, it wasn't a particularly good day for me, because the reports came back with one consistent feature. They all said, yeah, you were a very nice guy. But when I then follow them up and say, well, hang about, I know I'm a nice guy. Well, at least, I think I am. Is your problem any different? Well, we thought you were a nice guy. So I started saying to people, okay, what about the problem? Is anything any different for you these days? The reality was, it wasn't the case. People felt that I was good. They felt the techniques that I did were interesting. They felt the whole thing was kind of useful. But the reality was, nothing had changed. Now, at the end of the sessions, they all felt very pleased. They seemed to be very grateful. They paid the bill, which was very good. Just washing out the traffic here. So I started to change what I was doing. Now, what I did was to stop measuring kinesthetic change. So basically, if you were to run an entire therapy session, but at no time in the session can you ask the client how they feel, either in the elicitation of the problem, elicitation of the solution, or at the end of the session, how differently would you work? Now, following on with Charles's input and exploring the metaphors, I stopped doing that. So the feel-good stuff was gone. This is what happened as a result. I had an increase in clients leaving the session saying that they weren't entirely sure what had happened, and they weren't entirely sure if they were happy with what had happened. Basically, they looked unhappy. Now, what was interesting to me was after the sessions, an increased number of people were then contacting me, as opposed to going, I'm really happy with the session, thanks very much, and I never hear from them again. People were saying, okay, I need to talk to you about some of the stuff that you said. Now initially that made me a bit nervous. I was like, okay, what stuff? They said, well, it's been playing on my mind. You said some things that really struck a chord with me, and it didn't feel very nice. Okay, but what about it? Well, I've noticed that things are different now. Now that's the bit that's interesting. With the old Ericksonian feel-good stuff, people felt good at the end of the session. That's very reassuring to the therapist. With the metaphors of movement stuff, people are stirred up. But because of the way the metaphors of movement model operates, we hit real buttons with people. We're really getting into the genuine structure, not of their solution, but of now. Where am I in the here and now, not where I want to get to? People don't like that necessarily, because we can easily distract ourselves with outcomes. Anyone can sit in a workshop reading a book, they can be in the cinema and fantasize about what life will be like when things are better. And people will feel better for doing that. I can think about, I can be a millionaire, I can go on these courses, I can read these books, and I can be a millionaire and I can be a success. And sure, my state will change, and if you ask me when I'm doing that, okay, how do you feel? I'll tell you, I feel good. But to face the reality of who I am now, where I am now, the direction in which I'm going, is a whole different thing. And so if I can't distract myself with outcomes, I have to face the reality of what I'm doing. That's the Metaphors of Movement model. Metaphors of Movement is not about outcomes. It's about where I am, so I can find out what steps I've got to take. Anyway, that's me talking. I'm nearly at my destination. So, if you want to know more about this stuff, I've got two websites. One is the general promotional stuff, metaphorsofmovement.com. That's coming up on the screen. But the other one is the online training, metaphorsinmyattic.com. This is something I filmed myself, pretty much in the attic. It was my attic and my father-in-law's attic, the spare bedroom and a dusty old theatre. There's about 7.5 hours of video on there. So Metaphors in My Attic is the perfect place for online training. Anyway, I'm gonna have to shoot. We're nearly there. So I'll see you there.